Shabbat Shalom, Temple Emmanuel. This week's Parsha is Noach, or Noah, as we would say. Noach in Hebrew means to be comfortable. And the question is, Noah really comfortable? And what does that mean? How do we understand his comfortability in life? And we read at the beginning of the Torah portion, Ele toldot Noach, Noach ish tzaddik tamim haya b'dorotav. Noah was a righteous one in his generation, and it continues and it says that he walked with God. What does that mean? How do we understand that in Noach's world? And does righteousness actually mean righteousness the way we understand it today, if his generation is so corrupt that God wants to destroy the world with a flood? Noah is highly criticized during his lifetime for one reason, is that as he may have had a very strong relationship with God and had an unshakable faith, the question that we ask about Noah is, how much did he care about other people? Because as he built that ark, he had a long time. That ark was humongous. So it took a long time to build. He never went to the people that he lived with in his neighborhood, in his town, and said, listen, guys, here's what's happening. Let's come together. Let's unite the world. And the challenge for Noah is, he didn't. He took the animals, 2 by 2, he put them on the ark, and he survives. But the rest of the world perishes. And which is the reason why, as many commentaries say, that Judaism does not begin with Noah. It begins with Abraham. Because when Abraham hears later on, as we're going to hear in the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, that when he hears that God is going to wipe out the towns of Sodom and Gomorrah, Abraham argues with God. Even though he never argued with the initial journey, Lech Lecha, go forth, Abraham, and he goes. But with Sodom and Gomorrah, when people are at stake and people are going to be destroyed, he speaks up and he says, no. If it's for 50 people, will you still destroy the towns? For 40, for 30, and he negotiates with God to make sure that everything would be okay. And the challenge as we look between Noah and Abraham, is that it's about people, looking out for people. And what we see in Noah is that after the flood is over, Noah begins to learn that lesson. Because first he sends out the raven to see if the floodwaters have gone down. And the raven never comes back. The raven's a scavenger. The raven saw carcasses and it was a buffet. So he doesn't come back and he eats. But the dove goes out. And the dove looks and comes back and says, basically, Noah, you can't land yet. And then the dove goes out again. And finally comes back with an olive branch in its mouth, saying things will be okay. But things don't say good for so often, because what happens at the end of Noah is the Tower of Babel. And the tower is built and people want to make a name for themselves as they build that tower into the sky to be like God. But when a brick falls, they get worried, but when a human being falls, they don't care. And again, those same lessons are learned time and time again. That we don't live alone, we live in community with one another, and that is critical to who we are as people. So what is the lesson we can gain from all of this? Is that life isn't always so comfortable like Noah may seem it to be. But when we remember that we do live in community with one another, and we ask for peace, we ask for shalom, and we send out that olive branch, that's ultimately the key to the future. So on this Shabbat, we look for peace, we look for righteousness and justice, we pursue peace. We ask for peace, particularly this coming week, which is election week. We make sure that we get out and vote. Because when we get out and vote, we make sure that our voices are heard and that we can speak for those who may not be able to speak for themselves. Let's get out there, make sure everyone votes. No matter who you're voting for, get out there, get out the vote. So on this Shabbat, come and join us for Shabbat Noach, to learn, to study, and to pray as one community. We have a Shabbat Shmooze beginning at 6:30, followed by our 7:30 services, a family service in the main sanctuary, and an alternative service in the chapel. Come and join us, celebrate Shabbat, and remember, Shabbat is the number of peace. The seventh day, the number of peace. Let us all come together in a sense of shalom, a sense of peace as we move forward into a world where we don't know what the future brings, but we know it'll be okay if we do it together. Shabbat Shalom.